Welcome back. All right, so it is time to review this week's Raw. Just as a heads up, I don't think I'm going to be able to review next week's Raw because it's actually a busy Monday in the National Hockey League. But we can talk about this week, can't we? So it was from San Jose, so I figured the Sharks hat works, and I'm wearing my Tiffany Stratton t-shirt, even though Tiffany was not on this show. So they did a video recap of last week. They have CM Punk chances he's getting out of his vehicle, and he makes his way towards the ring. And he declares he's in the Rumble. He names drops John Cena, and out comes Seth Rollins. Seth has some words for him, and then out comes Drew. Of course, Seth's also in the Rumble. Drew's going to be in the Rumble. It's all Rumble, Rumble. And Drew's going to have a fight with Seth next week. They're obviously setting up like a Seth heel turn. At least it looks that way. It's a gradual heel turn, which is kind of the way you have to do that with Seth at this point, since the fans really like him. So if he did like a shock switch, I don't know that it's necessarily going to work. Then we had Chad Gable versus Penta, and the reception for Penta was great, and they made him look like a superstar. I gotta say, the presentation Penta got here feels bigger than what he was getting in AEW. In AEW, he was almost always with Ray Phoenix, or Ray Phoenix. I've heard it pronounced both ways, but Ray Phoenix, tag partner, and the Lucha Bros were tag champs. And I'm not saying that they were presented badly in AEW, but Penta never felt like a main event level player, and yet in WWE, one match, and he feels kind of like a big deal. We'll see if it stays that way. But they presented him like he's a star. They didn't mention AEW. The interesting thing was they mentioned all the titles he had everywhere else. I never heard AEW. I didn't hear anything about the AEW tag belts. I heard CMLL and Japan and everything else. I didn't hear anything about AEW, which is weird. So the match starts at 5:27, so that's 27 minutes into the show. A Penta driver for the win at 5:41. So Gable and Penta had a 14-minute match there. And then Jackie was in the ring to interview Penta. Jackie was briefly in the ring. Penta cuts a promo. Half of it in Spanish, which I think is great. Clearly, there was a large Hispanic audience there because they understood what he was saying and cheered along. And yeah, I think what WWE's been trying to do for a long time, I think, is, Rey Mysterio's not going to last forever, and I think looking for that next luchador that could be a main eventer and could be a big deal. They've tried that with various wrestlers over the years. With Penta, it could work. It absolutely could. And Ray Phoenix, I would think, once his contract's officially up with AEW and they tacked on some extra time because of injuries, I really wonder, do you bring in Ray to be a tag partner for Penta, or do you just bring Ray in and then have Penta and Ray still as single stars who happen to be, close friends and maybe in a stable together? We'll see. But yeah, I thought they presented him really well. They made him look like a superstar, and the crowd had a great reaction. So at the very least, they nailed the landing on the debut for Penta. Then they had Judgment Day backstage. Clearly, Judgment Day is on its last legs. It's almost done. We're going to see Judgment Day break up over the next little while. They're no longer the threat that they were. And yeah, it's pretty clear that they're going to all go their separate ways soon enough. Then Sheamus versus Ludwig Kaiser. I'll put my hand up and say I'm kind of tired of these two at one another. And it feels like they've fought a lot. And so when I saw that they've had 3 matches against each other, I thought, really? Feels like it's a lot more than that. Of course, that wouldn't count triple threats, right? So, yeah. Then they did a backstage segment before the match with the Pure Fusion. Oh, I put PFD instead of PFC for Pure Fusion Collective. Pure Fusion Deodorant. I'll just call them that. I don't care. It's a stupid name for a group. It is. It's a dumb name. I don't even care that I put the wrong one. I don't care. So they hyped up the Intercontinental title final and said that they're going to go after who wins it. So sure they will. I've talked about this, but Shayna Baszler is a beast, and I don't understand why they don't push her as one. But I like Sonya Deville as well. And heck, Zoe Stark's a pretty good wrestler too. But for whatever reason, the three of them together, it's not, for me personally, it's not clicking. I don't see them as like badasses, and you should. but something with it, just they haven't won anything. They come out and they just we're gonna beat everybody up, and then So anyways, the match between Sheamus and Ludwig Kaiser starts at 5:54, and then a Brogue Kick wins it for Sheamus at 6:04. And then he goes out and he gets into it with Braun Breaker. So we're going to get Sheamus versus Braun again. The speculation I've seen online is that Sheamus at WrestleMania would challenge Braun Breaker and take the Intercontinental title because that's his Grand Slam. That's the one title that Sheamus has never had. And I'll say this, Sheamus is a great guy. Sure, if they want to give him the Intercontinental title, that's great. And then Braun Breaker can have a main event feud for the world title, which is really where Braun should be soon enough, probably sooner rather than later. Then they have Seth backstage. He's going to fight Drew next week. He talks to Sami Zayn. Just get into all this Roman Reigns stuff and everything, too. And then Jackie talks to Carlito and JD McDonough. A lot of Jackie segments this week. It's kind of like she's all over the place, and then tomorrow night I'll be watching hockey, and she'll be all over the hockey games too. Jackie's a hard worker. I'm just gonna say, and I understand people might go, it's just an interview that's easy, but she works a lot of hockey games on top of doing the wrestling, and I've never seen her complain about it. She seems to really enjoy the challenge, so kudos to her for being able to keep up such a schedule. Then and it shows that hockey and wrestling, there's definitely a crossover in the fandoms between hockey and wrestling. If anything, the NHL should be scheduling around like WrestleMania and Raw and stuff like that, but they don't because, well, I guess kind of. Mondays are usually quiet, Fridays are usually quiet. That's SmackDown, so kind of. Anyways, so they had a backstage segment with Karrion Kross, Sammy, and The Miz. Sammy yammers at The Miz, and they're gonna have a fight later. I'm not sure what they're doing with Final Testament. I got to be honest. But I'm gonna say this too. Where the hell are the Wyatt Six? The Wyatt Six get this huge build. They get this great debut, and it's almost as if WWE went, hell, we don't see Bo Dallas as a main eventer, so which is too bad because honestly, I think he kicks ass. I've been a Bo Dallas fan since he was the NXT champion. I believed when nobody else did. And so I'm kind of ticked off that the Wyatt Six have been just invisible recently. Like, I get it, they spring from the darkness, but they're not supposed to be in the darkness this long. Anyways, Gunther heads to the ring. Jey Uso interrupts. They're gonna face off at Saturday night's main event. Can I go ahead and say Gunther might be my favorite part of any wrestling show right now? There's just something in his whole smarmy, smirky attitude, and I had no idea he was so good at. It's not the promos. His promo skills are okay. It's just his attitude. It's this air of I'm better than everybody else. You are beneath me, and he does it in such a way that he's kind of charming at the same time. Like Gunther's really grown into the role as the guy. And I think he's done it well enough that you could leave the belt on him for a nice long time. And I don't think he looks out of place. So kudos to him. I think he's actually grown better since his time in NXT. I know people were mad when he was no longer Walter, but they couldn't copyright Walter, so Gunther, and that's his name in WWE and all that fun stuff. Then Lyra Valkyria against Dakota Kai. Bayley's interviewed at ringside before the match, which I thought was odd. I thought that was a little weird. Kind of hypes up the match a little bit. The match starts at 6:33, and then Lyra wins the title at 6:41, so it only goes 8 minutes. Dakota wasn't winning, and Lyra winning the belt was actually leaked before the match took place today. So on some level, I kind of expected WWE to go, fine, we'll give it to Dakota just to prove that leak was wrong, but they didn't. Vince might have. Vince absolutely might have done it. If the results leaked out, I could see Vince switching it and going, fine, I'll go with the other person then. And then having them lose the belt the next week, right? Just so they could say, hey, that report was wrong. Then Dakota Kai embraces Lyra after. I'm just going to say it. I don't have any sort of feeling for Lyra Valkyria as a wrestler. Technically, she's very sound. She's got an interesting look. She's got... there's just it's a miss for me, and my concern with Lyra is that putting the belt on her, there's that old saying that the person makes the belt doesn't make the person, and I kind of hope that they're not using the belt to elevate Lyra, that they're using Lyra to elevate a title, if you guys know what I'm talking about there. And WWE's done that before where somebody wins the title and you're like, I still don't take them seriously. So, again, technically she's a good wrestler. All of the individual machinations you want from a wrestler are there with her, but it's just it doesn't connect with me at all. Like if I was at a live event and Lyra Valkyrie comes out, I'm not even reacting. I don't have any sort of Dakota. I have nothing but respect for Dakota for all the injuries she's been through and the setbacks she's had along the way, and for the fact she's one of the smaller wrestlers and she can still go out there and work. I have nothing but respect for Dakota, and I like Dakota Kai. So, anyways, we'll see how things work with Lyra. Then they had a New Day backstage segment. They're finally going to wrestle next week. They haven't wrestled since the heel turn that I know of, which is fine. It's kind of weird. It's like they get all the boos. I think it's really that, at least to me, it feels like they want them to go in the ring and wrestle when they're established as the bad guys. And maybe they're changing up the moveset, probably changing up the ring gear as well. And yeah, so I'm kind of anxious to see what they do next week. Although, again, I won't be able to review that show next week, but I still want to see what they do. The Miz versus Sami Zayn was next. It starts at 6:49, and Sami wins at 6:53 with a blue thunder bomb. And immediately I thought of Simon Miller. Simon Miller has made a big deal over the fact the blue thunder bomb never wins squat. I would not be surprised if this is information that's got back to Sami Zayn at some point. Hey, I have a hockey channel that's much smaller than What Culture Wrestling's wrestling channel, and I know hockey players have heard things that have been said about them on my channel. So I would not be surprised if wrestlers know what's being said on What Culture Wrestling, right? Simon Miller's very well known, and it's possible Sammy's like, he's right. I never do win with the Blue Thunder Bomb. It is the least devastating move in wrestling. I need to win a match with that. So he beats The Miz. I don't understand what they're doing with The Miz. They're just running him into the ground. Like, I don't get, and it's not like there was any sign of Final Testament or anything happening there. It was just The Miz gets beat. Done. It's over. I have no idea what they're doing with Miz at this point other than burying him. So, then Rhea heads to the ring, and Nia comes out, and I wrote right here, please no. And then Nia says she's winning the Rumble. Again, please, for the love of all that is holy, no. Nia Jax losing the belt on SmackDown last week was one of my favorite moments in wrestling, because I'm not a fan of Nia Jax. I've never been a fan of Nia Jax. She's not great at promos. We know that wrestlers get hurt in the ring with her. I just don't. I don't see a main eventer there. I see a woman's wrestler who's big. It kind of reminds me of, I want to say Big Show. The Big Show would always be the one that comes out and you'd be like, and all the Big Show would kind of have going for him. And it's not Paul White's fault on this, but because of the way that everything was booked, it's just big, right? And they're not going to win. So I don't want Nia going after the title. I don't want Nia winning the Royal Rumble. I want the Royal Rumble to be won by somebody who's a surprise. On the women's side especially, I'd like to see somebody win it that we do not expect. Somebody newish and somebody who can really be, propelled with that kind of success. One thing that Vince was getting lazy with was that these, Money in the Bank chances and Royal Rumbles that can make wrestlers, a lot of the time it was just going to established wrestlers we already knew, and we're like, all right, well, he's got the Money in the Bank. All right, well, fine. But to me, that doesn't necessarily work. Bayley gets in the ring. Nia gets kicked out by Bayley and Rhea. Bayley's getting a title on SmackDown on Friday. If I'm home, I'll review that. It might be a date night for the wife and I, though, so I might not be home to watch that. But, I don't think Bayley's going to win the title from Tiffany her first week. I don't think that's going to happen, but Bayley can make Tiffany look really strong there. So, and it'll be interesting to see if Tiffany goes full-on heel still, or if the fact that the crowd's supporting her and want to support her, if WWE's going to lean into that. So then we had the street fight between Damian Priest and Finn Balor, which was weird. And especially since after Damian's entrance, Jackie then talks to Ray about Penta. And they hyped up how Penta's going to be a superstar. Okay. It was weird. It was like, I understand there's a passing of the torch, but it just the timing of it seemed weird. Okay, Damien's coming to the ring. Let's talk to Rey Mysterio about Penta. Oh, okay, sure. Let's do that. So it starts at 7:14. I wanted to put the time down as it was on my computer at the time because I think it's interesting how long some of these matches are. And the fact that there's no commercials. My Netflix plan, I don't get any commercials, so it's great. So Balor gets placed on a stretcher about 5 minutes in, but I could tell he was okay. Priest protected him so well on the way down on that move that Balor's okay. So they put him. The funny thing too is they put a neck brace on him and put him on the stretcher, and I'm thinking, no, like it was so weird to me that they did that, and I'm like, this is not the way these EMTs this is one of those things where the fact that I've done first aid before and then I'm watching what they're doing and I'm like, no, no. If you actually think there's a neck injury and you actually think the guy is in like actual real trouble, you're not going to rush him onto a stretcher and try to rush him out. You're going to check everything first, and there's going to be an ambulance, and it's going to be like a bit. But you could tell that this was just a setup. And sure enough, it was. Priest attacks Carlito and JD, and then he pushes the stretcher to the ring because the good guy has to beat up the guy on the stretcher. But it's fine because Finn was fine. The War Raiders come out, they take care of Carlito and JD, and then Priest wins it at 7:31. The coup de grace, though, through that table, well done. Well done by Finn. Finn Balor is a fantastic wrestler. I know he's on the smaller side, and that might make it a little bit harder to take him seriously at times against some of the wrestlers he's fought, but he's just so darn good at it. So I hope this ends Priest against the Judgment Day. I hope this ends that feud and it's done. Because it should be done. There's a lot of feuds on Raw that were just kind of going on and on and on. With the move to Netflix, let's switch that up, change them around. Not at the pace AEW does it. AEW paces it weird. I also want to say in closing, there was something that was brought up. I saw online on a I don't remember if it was on Facebook or on the formerly known as Twitter, but the idea that the problem with wrestling now is they don't sell. So a big move gets hit, and then a guy jumps right up after. And I thought, that's what it is. There's something with wrestling when I watch it now that it doesn't feel as, I don't want to say risky. It just doesn't feel like you're actually, like I don't get worried about wrestlers being hurt as much as I did, say, when I was a kid. And it's not because I didn't understand it was, I don't want to say fake, that it was predetermined as a kid. It's that guys would stay down for a while after some of these big moves. Then now wrestlers just jump right up. You take a running power slam and 10 seconds later you're just jumping up like, yeah, let's go. All right, so that move had absolutely no impact. Cool. That is absolutely an issue in wrestling. And now that I've seen other people talking about it and how that takes them out of it, it does. Wrestlers need to start selling a little more, slow the match down just a little bit. It doesn't have to be so frenetic and so fast all the time. And just really make it seem like this is a fight. This is a real fight. The only time we see that is like in this street fight tonight. Even though you could tell, like I said, you could tell, Priest protected Finn so well with that move that there was no way Finn was actually hurt there. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe in the event you may not have done so already. Thank you guys so much for all your support, as always. I will talk to you again soon.